Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Cubica AMF's Marketing and Your Success webinar. I'm your host today, Jay Nephew. I'll be one of the presenters, and joining me today we have the Training Services Manager and Presenter Extraordinaire, Natasha Kipper.
Hi, Jay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, Natasha. As well as Natasha and I, we've got a panel today of a couple wonderful people that have agreed to join us. They both bring different flavors to the table today. Our first guest is from Louisville, Kentucky. He's currently the GM at Kingpin Lanes, and he's a lifelong bowler and a third-generation center operator. And previously, he's worked for USBC as a regional manager and managed Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers for 7 years. I'd like to welcome Mr. John Mccarthy.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks, John, for being with us today. Our other panelist today is none other than the owner and operator of the Clubhouse in Statesboro, Georgia. Darren Van Tassel is the principal owner and team president of South Georgia Tormenta Football Club, and that, for you people here in the U.S., is a professional soccer franchise, right? They also are the owners of the Clubhouse, which is a 64-acre entertainment complex located in Statesboro, Georgia. And Darren was named the 2011 Entrepreneur of the Year by the Statesboro-Bullock County Chamber of Commerce for his work. Darren might be a tad bit late joining us today, and I do apologize for that. So we're going to get started in just a moment, and I realize I've deleted the N off his name on the slide, so I'm going to have to fix that while we're chatting here. Today we're going to talk about marketing successes in our business world that we're facing with the COVID challenge, with the limited resources, limited customer base challenge. You know, we've got a lot of different factors that weigh into our business decisions in today's marketplace. And we've been fortunate enough to chat with owner operators, both small and large, from around the country and, you know, and sometimes in other countries too. So we're getting this really interesting view on how the world is receiving bowling and what some of the clever operators are doing to drive the most traffic. We've seen some operators even beat previous year's revenue with limited lanes and limited hours. So something is working, and there are some places where there are definitely some patterns forming. I'm going to start with a little statement right here, and I would like to throw this out there to John and Natasha. We'll chat about this. You know, in the past, it seems like we've had to over-communicate to our customers. When we first started, it felt like we were over communicating, at least in my opinion. And that's what it's all about right now, is over communicating the state of your business, what's expected of customers. But what your customers really want to know, and this is interesting because I saw on the news this morning on CBS, they were talking about this. What the customers really want to know is, can I trust you? Is your environment safe for me to be in, to have a relaxing time and de-stress from everyday life? So with that, I'm going to ask John, what do you think your customers want to hear? And what has resonated that you've told them? And what drives them to come in, do you feel? John, what do you say about that?
I think it starts with explaining what your policies are going to be and that you take this seriously. This is a different. Everyone takes this issue differently, but they want to see that you have a plan. What they don't want is for you to not be able to answer their questions quickly, to kind of seem like you're making it up as you go. Just having proper signage, X's on the floors, I think makes them feel like, okay, these guys had a plan. They're not winging this, and it seems to go a long way. We've made some transitions with our advertising to try to promote touchless interactions. And that has been very popular because people don't have to worry about standing in line and all those fears that they have. That there is some time and some effort that went into this, and we do care about their health and well-being and not just profits.
Interesting. Tasha, what do you say about that?
From a consumer point of view, I would agree with this 100%. Even with a lot of people that I talk to just outside of bowling, that's one of the most important things they want to know about, visiting any kind of business. And for bowling centers in particular, you know, especially for families, they're taking their kids to go out and have some entertainment and be outside of the house, which, you know, we've been cooped up for far too long, much longer than any of us care to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one of the most important things they want to know. They know you're going to provide some kind of entertainment for a, you know, certain amount of dollars, but more importantly, they want to know, is it safe for them and their children? Can they enjoy themselves and not worry about who they're standing next to or what they are touching? So if you can kind of communicate that message across, I think that's going to be the first most important step in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. You know, the stories that I watched on the news this morning were from the Retail Association, and these are the main big retailers, you know, the Walmarts, the Targets, the Trader Joe's, or the Whole Foods, et cetera. And what they were saying as a whole was Lowe's, Best Buy, et cetera. They were saying, look, we want the federal government to come up with a standardized mandate. That could be state to state. We're fine with that. But we need a standardized mandate, because what we found is in those locations and stores where we have a structured guideline to follow, and it's black and white and it's not our personal business decision, we're finding that we have more foot traffic, more customers, and our revenues are up. And that makes sense, doesn't it? If it's not a question of, well, this business makes me wear it, but it's rather than if you're going to go out shopping, you need to have a mask on, for example, that sets a level playing field for everybody. And I think that, like you're saying, Tasha, you have a family. I don't want to just bring my family somewhere where I think it's safe. I'd rather go where I know it's safer. And, you know, we all know that a mask doesn't stop and protect everything, but it is a barrier to it. So, I think for us in the bowling world, I think we need to communicate that to our customers, meaning whatever your policy is, it needs to be clearly stated and there can be no deviation from it. So
For sure.
if you haven't done that yet, that's fine. If you're waiting for resolution from your local government or your state government, I think you could take the bull by the horns in this case and just make the leap and do what you feel is right for your business until you're told otherwise.
Yes, that's a very
Okay. Do we have any other people joining us right now that you can see, Tasha?
We have quite a few people that have joined us in the last few minutes, but Darren is not here yet.
Okay. I do want to say hi to everybody who has joined us. You know, if you have any questions, by all means, please type them in the chat box. We will read those throughout the day, throughout the hour, and we'll respond to them as appropriately, or if at the end, if we can't fit it into the conversation right now. But I'm going to move on because we talked about used to do, right? We used to sell entertainment, right? We used to sell unlimited fun, unlimited entertainment. But now our conversation has shifted to, well, we are selling clean, safe fun, and for, you know, about an hour or so. That's been some of the marketing I've seen. So, you know, what's the strategy? What should be our strategy be for this new communication to customers? Does it go along with developing that process with adhering to the new standards in social distancing? John, what do you think about that?
Yeah, cleanliness always has been important, but it's amazing how different its priority is now. What we decided to do was to kind of stage a fake opening before we were allowed to open. We stayed under the state minimum, but we brought some people in and took some photos of how we were going to social distance. We built some little plexiglass walls. We have the cubic couches, and we reconfigured them to allow for more spacing. And we took a lot of videos and pictures to help push that on our website as well as on our social media presence so that they could see what we had in mind. And I think that that's going to be the thing that makes people feel the most comfortable, is to see the efforts that you've made, that they understand. We've had some league bowlers that didn't necessarily like the way the couches are laid out now, but they understand that we have to keep 6 feet apart in these areas, and those are the goals that we're striving for. But we even put all of our changes, our new guidelines on our website, on our front page, to be out and open and in front with everybody so that they could look through and see that, and not hidden on some COVID tab that they will have to look for.
Right. They don't have to hunt for it. It's right there when they log in.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised that more people haven't done that. Even some of the bigger chains here in America in other industries, that they're putting it on that back tab, when really, to me, you almost need to put it right in front of them, because that's a huge question for a huge majority of America right now is, what are you doing that's different? This isn't an industry like a restaurant or more like a grocery store where I have to go to the grocery store. I need milk.
Right.
We will all survive without bowling. So you have to prove to them that this is a recreational opportunity that is safe, and you got to be over the top with it. And the staff sometimes thinks we're silly with some of the stuff that we're doing, but we're trying to keep at it as best we can. And I'm sure that everyone on the chat, you've been going to restaurants and you can slowly see relaxing a little bit. And it's difficult to keep on. Like, why do I have to wipe the couch down for the 34th time today? And it's because we have to do that. This is our part on being a good steward of our community.
John, that's a good point. Even like going to all sorts of different businesses, not only, what are they doing to keep us safe, but here's what I often am curious about. If I have to go to a new place, like for example, for my son to get a haircut, what do they expect me to do? Do I wear a mask?
Oh, right. Before you get there, right.
You know what I mean? Like, what are their requirements? Somebody, some business, like if you go to the doctor's office, they want you to wait outside until they ask you to come in. You can't wait inside. Different places don't mind if you wait inside, but you must wear a mask. So there are all these different things that different businesses are implementing today, but we cannot possibly know what all of them are, especially those businesses that we don't go to very often. Like you said, a bowling center, bowling alley.
That would probably be our number one thing that we are answering on the phone right now is, what are your procedures? Do I need to wear a mask? Are you open? We're getting that's primarily our phone calls. It's not what's the price of open bowling or do you have birthday parties? It's that conversation.
Exactly. So I think that's very important. And I'm curious, have you had any feedback from your customers on anything that you are doing currently to address these issues? Has anybody commented that it's enough, that it's, not enough? Have you heard anything at all?
Yeah, we've got a couple Facebook tags or reviews. One was really good that they said it was their best experience since the COVID shutdown. And so we've turned those into ads like a lot of people do, where you take one of your reviews and push it. Some people have thought, like the traditional league bowlers that have come in, they think it's crazy. They're like, I sat right here for the last 10 years and you've moved my couch. This can't be happening.
That's so true.
Yeah, but they get it. They're understanding that, there are, some struggles to keep enough hand sanitizer everywhere and things like that because of the hard supply. We've had to go with some hand sanitizer that is quite potent. I think you could light it on fire. It's so strong, and so everybody hates that, but that's what I could get at the time. And some people haven't necessarily liked some of those choices. They wish that we had the regular hand sanitizer that smelled nice that we'd used before, but
Sure.
It's not the situation that we're in. But overall, I feel like we've done a very good job, and I feel like the customers have appreciated it, and we're continuing to try to figure out how we can do better.
Sure, you're always doing that. You did bring up a point, John, that you said that you wonder why more people don't put the COVID information right on the front page of their website. And I'm thought about that for a minute, and I said, I bet I know one of the main reasons why is so many of us owner operators are a little bit technically challenged, and we're not used to dealing with the web, the web interface itself, and maybe they don't even have the ability to do their own web editing. They're going to have to reach someone. And then furthermore, for that to really happen the best way, you probably need a carousel on your homepage that scrolls through different types of things like, a special on Thursday night or our new lease forming, whatever. And the COVID could be the first one. Similar to when you go to the Cubic AMS site, we have our COVID tab coming up first in the window, but it does scroll to other promos if you wait long enough. So if you have the ability and you are one of those challenged owner operators. And I don't mean challenge because you don't know how to do it, but mainly because maybe you don't have access to do it, right? That's pretty much the problem. But you can at least talk to someone and say, this is what I'd like. Is it easy to make that happen? So that's a very good point, John.
Hey, Jay, real quick, we got a message from Christine. She said they made a video with staff showing new procedures, which was emailed to all regular customers and posted on their website and Facebook page. There you go. That's perfect.
Hey,
so even
Christine, good job.
Yeah.
Good job. And I like your glasses, Christine. They look very nice. She says, oh, thank you. I can see she's got her webcam on. She's so cute. That's a beautiful idea. And that's exactly the over communication. I'm using air quotes. So you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes for over communication. You and I would feel like, well, I've said this story like 15 times, but how many times has your customer base really seen it, you know?
That's a good point.
Yeah. So let's switch gears for a little bit. Let's talk about summer business because, you know, in the past, I think, especially in the Northeast for sure, where it's very seasonal, I think a lot of our summer business that we used to see up there was, you know, kids bowl free, families, summer camps, clubs, etc. But where are you spending your energy now that we're in this kind of a situation? Is that still your target? I've seen some people still run kids bowl free, but are there other new targets that we should consider? John, what do you say about that?
One target audience that I've actually had a little success with that has kind of shocked me are seniors. We have a yearly senior no tap, and I thought for sure this thing wasn't going to go. Our senior league decided not to bowl, and 25 seniors have shown up 3 weeks in a row now, and that totally
beautiful
shocked me. We've also had during our day, we've had some seniors that have come in and practiced, but primarily it has been families, and of course at night it gets a little younger. But Kids Bowl Free is a program that we do. It is obviously doing much less than it has done in the past, as is everything right now. I haven't done this yet. We have a tournament that we're going to try to do, a social distancing tournament, but a couple centers in town have had some success running some nightly sweepers during the week, where people weren't willing to make the commitment to a league, but they have made a commitment to show up and bowl for like a $40 sweeper, and they've had decent success with that. And so that might be something to look at your area and what your makeup of your league bowlers are. It seems to me that our league bowlers have been less sensitive to the issue, and I think because they consider this like home. You know, those foreign places they don't go all the time. That's where they think they would get the germs. But here at home, they when we had them distanced out with dead pairs between them, they were all upset because that's not how they've bowled here for the last X number of years.
Right.
But a lot of them have been pretty comfortable with it, and with the option of a sweeper, it allows for those that want to attend, and those that want to come in every now and then or not. They don't have to make the commitment. But that's what I've seen here in this area. We still primarily are families, and I will say the biggest thing I've seen is the group size has shrunk. You know, you used to get groups of 5, 6, 7 all the time. I hardly see a group bigger than 4. There's some families that will come in, but people aren't mixing from outside their household as much as what I see. They're just coming with those direct people they have a lot of contact with.
Right. And you know what? I've seen that same shift down here in Texas. Del Mar Lanes, around the corner from where I live, started a Monday night sweeper. They used to have a huge Monday night league, and that didn't go this year. So they now started a sweeper. They had a guy come in and run a sweeper for them. And, you know, the last 2 weeks, the first week he had like 42, and I think he had 46 last week or this past Monday. So it's the same kind of audience that you're seeing that's ready to come in and at least be a part of something, whether it be a weekly league or not. I agree. The sweeper might be a beautiful thing, whether you do a handicap, a scratch, or 2 divisions or doubles. You can have fun with that. That's a good way to test out some unusual formats that you may have been holding on to, or use some pieces of your system that you don't normally get to use. You know, on the Cubica AMF on Best X, you can go into Conquer and you can choose all these other games like odds and evens, or even better odd duck. Those 2 games together are just so much fun. and they're good for all levels of competition. So if you have scratch players and handicap players, and you play back-to-back games of even better and odd duck, I guarantee a scratch bowler will not win, but they'll think they can win, but they probably won't win. But they'll do well enough. You know, there's no advantage in those kind of games. So I think if you have the ability to do some out-of-the-box thinking, I think a sweeper-type environment might be the way to start out to fill in some of the gaps that you've had there.
And Jay, that's really a good advice to those that are just now starting to open up. And if I remember correctly, Tim Boss shared with you similar information yesterday on your Beyond the Frame Facebook Live.
He did.
We're seeing this across the board. Our league bowlers are not afraid to come back. In fact, they cannot wait to come back, right? So that's one target market that you don't really have to aggressively go after, because naturally, as John said, this is their home. They're comfortable. They have their own equipment. We're not having any issues with them. But bringing some of the other target markets back to your center, especially now in the middle of summer, with some of you, I'm sure Kentucky is not particularly, busy as far as bowling goes in the, summer months, much like the rest of Midwest or, Northeast. So it will be interesting to see who are some of the other customers that are going to be returning to bowling centers sooner than later.
Mm-hmm. You hit the nail on the head. Like, it's interesting because in our travels and in our discussions, we do really see that the talented bowler, the seasoned bowler, the league player, the tournament player, the club bowler, they're driving revenue right now in a lot of centers, especially if it was a traditional or hybrid center. They're the ones coming in the door and making the register ring first. And those FECs, the true FECs that maybe don't host league at all, they're not seeing the same levels in some places, but in other places, like Darren was saying, or Anthony, what's
Ferroni?
Anthony's last name? Yes, thank you, Anthony Ferroni. He was saying, they beat prior year with half the lanes being used. So, and he is strictly a casual place. So I think it really depends on your market. And again, that was right after they opened up. So, things have kind of gone through wave 2 now. So I guess, but it's encouraging to hear, I'd say. So,
yes, for sure.
We often,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Jay.
I was going to say, we often discount our league bowlers, not discount them saying they're not worth, but we don't put as much effort sometimes into attracting them because we know them. And it's interesting how now that if we put just a little more effort into telling that base, look, hey, I've got something for you to do on Tuesday night, or I've got a program coming on Thursdays, no commitment, come when you can. You're going to fill those lanes quicker than trying to attract maybe open play bowlers with families who don't feel comfortable going out yet. And that's what it's all about. Find the ones that are comfortable and then go after them.
Yes, and again, for those folks that are just getting ready to reopen, this is a good point for them to think about, to kind of learn from the rest of the country that has been open for a few weeks now, maybe even, over a month in some areas like Georgia, Tennessee, Florida. There's some useful data they can rely on for, the first few weeks of opening. And with that, we have a couple of questions that have come in that I think are relevant to what we're talking at this current moment. One from Aaron. How have employees held up? Anyone getting sick? Lost employees after opening? We're looking to finally open this weekend in North Carolina, and employee safety is a must. First of all, Aaron, congratulations to you and North Carolina on the big win and finally being able to open. That's great news. And actually, excellent question. I'm going to let John speak on that first as a current operator, and then Jay and I will chime in.
Okay. We had about half of our staff return when we opened back up, which obviously we weren't as busy, so it wasn't as bad as if it would have been in the busy season. Many of them have opted due to, you know, extra benefits to stay on unemployment or their own health reasons to stay at home. The staff that we've had that's come in, we haven't had too much issue as far as them getting sick. We've had a couple issues where we requested that they go and get a COVID test because they came in contact with somebody, and we kept them off the schedule until we got the results from that. I don't know. I know every state is different, but we're lucky we have a couple testing sites that are free here in Kentucky that are pretty nearby. So we're able to offer that. But we haven't necessarily had our staff be impacted by it. Our state is mandating, like most, that we wear gloves, that we wear masks, and we do our best to protect our employees. And they also, it's sometimes hard to make them realize this, but some of that cleaning is for their own good. If you think of someone who's in the building for 8 hours, they're touching way more surfaces than our customers are, and they're in contact with a lot of people. We've tried to, you know, explain to them the situation, make sure they're aware of it, and if they're not comfortable, we've let them, you know, not work. We are not busy, so it's been easier to make those concessions than if we were extremely busy. And we tried to explain to them they have to communicate with us. If you don't feel well, don't come to work.
Yes, 100%.
You know, you think of how many people they would interact with on a day. They have a chance, if they were sick, to spread it to 30, 40, 50 people in an afternoon. And like I said earlier, when we had our staff meeting, we brought them back. We feel like it's our job to help do our part in the community to make sure we do this right and not lazy and end up getting more people sick, because that type of action leads to another shutdown, which we all don't want.
Exactly. Okay.
I have my own views on this. Oh, sorry, Tasha, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Share yours and then I'll share mine.
Because I've been watching, like I said, I've been watching a lot of news. I'm a news junkie, and I've been listening to the latest findings for COVID, and, you know, being mostly airborne, it's very interesting to me that we have not seen, for the most part, a giant spike in bowling center employees contracting COVID. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I personally don't know of any bowling center that I bowl at that an employee has come down with it. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? I'm not a doctor. But what I do listen to is the experts are saying, if you're in a very well ventilated area with a lot of space, that the airborne transmission is less likely to happen. That's why outdoors, you may not need a mask. But when you think about what most bowling center looks like inside, it's usually an expansive place with a very high ceiling, and there's a lot of airflow. So if this disease is in fact mostly airborne, as we're kind of finding out, it kind of makes sense that bowling is a safer environment, even though it's indoors, because of the large volume of air that gets, you know, moved through the building over and over if you have a good air filtration system. So I think that's a promising thing. You know, should it be scientifically proven down the road, but it's leading me to believe that that's more likely to cause than the touch surfaces. I'm sure the touch surfaces are equally as important, but we're taking care of those, right? And other places are taking care of their surfaces, but they can't take care of a small room with no airflow. So if you're in a closed environment where you've got someone who is ill and they're talking and breathing and, you know, shouting, those virus droplets and particles are floating around that air a lot longer than if you were in, say, you know, the concourse of a bowling center.
Jay, you sold me.
I mean, it's just me sitting back, absorbing all this and going, this is my suspicion right now. But, you know, I hope I'm right, because that means that we are hopefully going to be a lot safer, considered a safe facility down the road, even more so.
Sure, that's a good point. Here's what I've heard from a few customers that I've either talked to or, you know, dealt with in some capacity. We have had a few bowling centers that have had somebody from their staff test positive, but because they were in contact with somebody else outside of work that tested positive.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We also have had situations where a customer would come into the center, not knowing that they may have been exposed or may be positive, and then they would notify the center that, hey, I just tested positive, I was there, you know, a couple days ago, whatever the case is. Again, I personally don't know of anybody, you know, getting sick at work. Although how we can still definitively prove that for anybody is still yet to be determined. Also, here's what I found interesting, and this just dawned on me a couple days ago. Most of the cases that I've heard from or heard of are in facilities that have very large food and beverage operation, not just your, you know, typical bowling center, bowling alley with a, you know, snack bar. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, if it's a coincidence or, you know, whatever the case is, but those are all the stories that I've known. Again, nobody has ever said, you know, one of our staff members or somebody at our center got sick. It's typically either somebody that tested positive that was at the center within the few days, or a staff members that was exposed to somebody else outside of work that tested positive and now is letting everybody else know. So those are the things that we know of. How to, of course, you know, the employee safety has been one of the most important things for, well, just about every single proprietor and operator we ever talked to, and, you know, in the recent days and weeks. So like what John said, constant cleaning, hand washing, you know, wearing their masks if that's what you require your staff to do. All of those things put into place. Wearing gloves, some places do, some places don't. Again, whatever works best for you. A lot of folks are implementing temperature checks, reporting of the symptoms. It's well known for many of our proprietors. They make that very clear to their staff. If you are not feeling well or if you're experiencing any symptoms, do not come to work. You're fine. You won't be punished for it. You won't suffer any long-term consequences. We want you to feel good. We want you to be well. And so far, that's worked quite well. Again, we haven't heard of any shutdowns or any issues due to staff getting sick or even customers having any issues at bowling centers. So far, so good. So good news so far, right? No issues.
Absolutely.
Okay, another question. Christine is asking, we have government mandates for masks and bowlers resisted at first, but most are complying. We're doing weekly drawings to win masks with our logo. I love it. Our manager hung a sign that says, would you rather wear a mask or a ventilator? I love it.
And Aaron, right above her, has a similar question, right? Or not Aaron, I mean Gary.
Yes, sorry. Gary. Yes, with the states that require wearing a mask in all indoor places, what are centers doing to comply? Have seen several different ways. Some let bowlers take off in settee area. What are your thoughts? I'm going to tell you real quick. I talked to Brian Kane today, and he opened up, you know, a week or so ago. And he was telling me today, he was like, hey, it's very interesting. A lot of people just, you know, really don't care to wear a mask. They come in, they don't have one. So he said, you know, I bought a big case and I'm now selling them for $1. They're supposed to wear it. You know, I don't expect you to wear it when you get down to the approach to throw your ball, but when you're back in the settee area and you're hanging out with your peers, whatever the case is, around other people, you should wear one. He's like, I'm doing the best I can to, you know, let people know. Maybe somebody's not aware. You don't know. Reinforce the message. You know, you got the scrolling message on the overhead monitor. You have images on the overhead monitors and super touches, all these things. It's like, I'm trying to let them know as much as I can. But at the end of the day, you as a bowling center, I don't know that you can really police your customers. And if they don't wear it, it's up to you to decide how you want to handle that. John, what do you do?
I'm sorry, did you ask me?
Yes, sorry.
Currently in Kentucky, we are not mandated to wear masks except for the employees. So what we have done is the issue has become political. We are letting the guests make that decision. With that said, we have hand sanitizer, even the little packets that the BPA gave us, available at the desk, and that we have masks at the desk and gloves. And all my employees have been instructed, if anyone wants a mask or gloves, we are to give them to them for free. We haven't charged anyone for them yet. We also are giving the masks to our employees. They are using them at a high clip. Even the reusable ones don't seem to be reused very often. But that's how we're moving forward with it. I do suspect that our state will be mandating it shortly. And at that time, we will put the proper signage up and make policies and direct that. I've heard some restaurants are doing what you talked about. You have to wear masks to go in, and they're charging them for it. I don't necessarily see us charging them for it, but I do believe that we will probably just provide them and ask them and try to work with people as reasonably as possible. I would say that probably only about half of our clientele currently is coming in with masks on their own. The other half are coming in without, which, every state is different. If you look at the charts, we have one of the lowest growth. In fact, our cases are still going down in Kentucky. We're a very rural state.
Thank God. Good for you guys.
We don't have the large populations that many other states do. We're also not a big tourist location to draw in people from out of town. We're kind of staying in our own bubble a little bit. But that is what we have done, and we will adjust as we have with everything on the fly. We just got our stage 2 update with rules on Saturday, even though they were due on Thursday from the state, so that we could start adjusting to those, lightening of a few restrictions and changing of a couple others.
Yeah, but specifically for these places that require everybody to wear a mask as soon as you enter a public place, I think that's a very sticky subject right now, because as a business operator, even at any stores, how do you enforce that? You don't
want to make your customers mad. That's the worst. When you get into a fight, that's the absolute
the whole reason. That's the whole reason why the retail industry wants the mandate to come down, where it's the same for everybody, because they don't want to be the bad guy. They don't want to be the person to be policed. So if they take it out of their hands and say, it's not my personal decision, we all have to do this, then I think it becomes less of an issue. And like in a state like Texas, where in a county like Harris County, we are mandated to wear masks. You can't go into any building. You can't leave your house without a mask. So when we went to the bowl to bowl in a tournament, I'm like, the operator of the bowl was very, very clear. He got on the microphone. He said, when you're bowling on the approach, you can pull your mask down absolutely to make your shot. When you step off the approach, the mask has to be on your face unless you're actively eating or drinking. And actively means the cup's in your mouth and the food's in your mouth. Then you can take it off. That was a very clear, cut and dry thing. And it took the onus off of him saying, this isn't my rule, this is what we have to follow to stay open. Once that message got out to the bowlers, they're like, oh yeah, we'll put a mask on, we want to bowl, we'll stay here, no worries. They were very worried about it. So, it's in the presentation, and it became less political when it was just cut and dry, I think.
Yes, and I can't help but think, are people going to fear customers' reaction to that kind of message? You've been shut down for 100+ days. You finally reopen. You're going through all sorts of hardships, from financial to making sure everything is clean, everybody's safe, bringing the staff back. They can't or don't want to come, all that kind of stuff. And you finally have a customer in the building. And now you're going to talk about should or should you not wear a mask and how to get them to comply. I can see how that would be nerve-wracking for some folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not a comfortable situation for sure.
Yeah, no, it's not. It brings us to another point, right? The service versus the hospitality kind of thing. Are we educating everyone what we're doing and that we are doing things differently in a safe environment? Yeah, we talked about that, but is it a service to provide just a blanket statement and say, look, if you want to be in this building, here's what you'll have to do, and the rules are the same for everybody, my workers, you, anybody who comes by? Because I tell you what, the fire marshals are coming through and they'll just shut the business down. They're not going to tell anybody they have to put a mask on, but you won't have your door open much longer if you're not, actively compliant. And that's where the reopening marketing kit really helps out. If you've not used our reopening marketing kit or any marketing kit for that example, BTA has one, but we have one right in our resource center. Got plenty of signage in there that you can choose to use as you feel fit. And using those MMS ads on your scoring system, don't forget to keep your mask on when you're not bowling. Don't forget social distancing. I think that goes a long way when a fire marshal walks in the door and sees those messages all around, instead of him coming up to the counter and say, where's the owner? How come you're not telling people to have masks on? And you point out and you go, well, there's 47 TV screens here that have the message on it, and I'm on the announcement, and da-da-da. I think you've just set yourself up for success personally.
I agree with that. I mean, there's only so much you can do without having, you have the technology already in the building, right? You have overhead monitors, you have, a lot of you I see from our participants, a lot of you have the Sex and Super Touches. You can put, like Jay mentioned, images up there, you can put scrolling messages, there's even language for your PA announcements. The blog also has a bunch of ideas on how you can do these things, how you can accomplish promoting this message and keeping it top of mind for your customers without really having to do anything physically every 5 minutes of the day. Even the stickers on the furniture or the floor, the front doors, or any doors throughout the building, all of that, when you add it up, it helps a great deal.
Mm-hmm. I heard of a center doing a fun thing. So they have the floor decals throughout the entire building, and they put a unique number on each one of them. And throughout the night, they say, "Okay, it's time." They don't warn them ahead of time. They'll just draw the number, and they'll go, who's standing on, number 47, and that person wins a stupid little prize. But you know what? It makes people stay on those markers instead of gathering around the table. I just thought that was a clever way to encourage the behavior you want.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great idea.
I love that idea. That's awesome.
I want to go on to the day of reckoning, as Darren called it, right? When we were talking with Darren during our little pre-call on Monday, and Tasha, this was great because you said it too. Darren says the day of reckoning is the school starting day, and I know it's political now because I know President Trump wants everybody to go, and some people don't want to go, but out of our control, right? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but it is going to impact us very greatly. If schools don't go back, that's nothing we have influence over, but it impacts us fully. So how does it impact us? But more importantly, how can you capitalize on if the schools don't go back? What can you do as an operator to say, well, if they're not going to go back, does this create another market for me with homeschooling? Many of you operate with homeschooling groups in your local area, and they come in and get their PE credits from you. But think about all the parents that are not part of that group that have just been thrust into doing homeschooling on their own. They don't have any guidance as to what to do for PE. Maybe they could use a little nod from you. You go to some homeowners associations, you put a little flyer together, get your PE in here. We're safe, we can social distance you. We've got great options available to keep the kids busy. I don't know, that could be a new marketplace for us. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think that those areas will probably have more usage, more people enrolling in homeschool and things like that this year than they have in the past. It's definitely a great opportunity. You're also going to see kids and families are home during the day, which they typically are not. It's kind of funny. We never realized that public school was as much daycare as it was school. Now all these kids have to be home, and that impedes on how parents can work. So there's some things there that I think are opportunities. For those that you have a Kids Bowl free list, email out to those people. That's if you do that program, or if you have some type of list somewhere, you might be able to get something out of it. You might need to run some daytime specials to, for kids looking to get out of the house if they're going to end up actually being home. And they may not go to school full time either. One of the discussions we've had A lot of the schools are on A and B schedules, to where you take, A classes 3 days a week, B classes 2 days. And they're discussing now possibly the A schedule kids would go to school 1 week and then be off and do homeschooling on computers the other week. And the B kids would go in that week. And so you may see a hybrid of it, to where some of them are home 1 week and some of them are home the next.
But both of them offer opportunity for marketing too, I believe. You're right. That's a perfect way.
Yeah. Anywhere you've got information, try to reach out to them. There's going to be grandparents now taking care of kids during the day, just like in the summer, and all those things that we do in the summer to try to attract them in, which will be more daytime business than nighttime. You can now go to, and maybe it's reaching out to your senior bowlers who may have to bring their grandkids in as well, or have them on the other days they're not bowling.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I really do like that. Tasha, what do you think about, the creation of a new sort of target market from something we don't really enjoy? I mean, that's business, right?
Yeah.
You make that lemonade with whatever you got.
Exactly. As you know, I've been thinking about this quite a bit. Well, first of all, the whole A kid and B kid, I hope that's not like an official term they're going to use. I would hate to grow up being the B kid. Going to school every other
The school I know that does it, it's green days and white days, because that's their two colors.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But there's so many variations and considerations of what next school year may look like, and all of them are equally scary. I feel like it. Even if you say, all right, everybody's going back to in-person, learning. I mean, are they safe? And what's the alternative? So a lot of things to consider. But John, something you mentioned before, remember back in the day when, bowling centers did have daycares and legitimately have people to, take care of a group of kids while parents bowled or whatever was going on. Not saying that becomes the thing going forward, but I feel like it's important for all of us to start thinking about what is this going to look like, and where are the business opportunities for bowling centers, even if it's not the PE class, because if they, in some areas I've heard, they're considering full-time remote learning and just eliminating PE completely, because how are they going to do it? So
Right.
Some kids may not have the need to even, do any of that. There's still an opportunity for them, not the opportunity, there's still the need for parents who never wanted to homeschool their kids but now have to. There's still the need for them to get out of the house and take the kids somewhere to do something if they know it's safe and good for them. I mean, think about it. If you're stuck with your kids at home all day, you're teaching them something, you're not really sure what you're doing, you're not trained to homeschool your kids, having a break in the middle of the day, maybe in the middle of the week, whatever the case is, to take them someplace safe to bowl and have fun and just get out of the house for a little bit. I bet you a lot of people would take advantage of that if it's done right, of course, if they know they can safely do so. So I feel like there are some opportunities in this very challenging and uncertain times, and we just kind of have to figure out what those look like. And again, like everything else from the beginning of this entire mess, is going to look differently for everybody, depending on your market, depending on what's going on around you in your area. Like John, you said you're in a rural area and you guys don't have too many tourists and the cases are not very high. Where I live, it's entirely opposite. So what bowling centers do here, it's likely very different from what you have to do at your center. And I think that holds true for just about every single bowling facility in the country. So I feel like there are some areas that we can find some opportunities. And there are also some areas that we'll have to look at very closely and think about, what is this going to look like for my business going forward? How do I replace all the organizing group book business because I can't see companies really spending money to, you know, bring their staff to have a corporate outing at a bowling center like they once used to and drop thousands of dollars in a matter of a couple of hours, right? How are we going to replace that? Or what is that going to look like going forward? It surely won't be the same as it was before. So I'm curious, Jay, do we have a couple of minutes to see if we can get some comments from our participants to see what they are thinking, or if they maybe have some ideas that they're considering on implementing, and maybe we can even, you know, help with the details, or brainstorm if nothing else. If go ahead.
No, I was exactly. I was going to ask our participants that are listening if they could actively just type in the chat. Have any of you surveyed your customers yet to find out maybe what segment is ready to come back, or who isn't? But more importantly, using that information to say, okay, if I can get these people back because they say they're ready, what have I created for them that's attractive? How could I host a company event? Is there a way to do it? Could I say that the entire center is just shut down except for XYZ company who's coming in, they got 70 people, and we're going to social distance that whole group throughout my entire building so they take over the building and still maintain their social distancing? Mm-hmm. You might be able to pull that off. I don't know. But there are, I guess the real answer is, from a marketing perspective, is if you know who can and wants to come back, what are you doing to drive that particular segment in or satisfy their need? So Tasha, that's a great point. Here we go. Aaron's here with games. Anyone seen a difference with gameplay or hour blocks? Anyone work better than the other? And waiting lists, what's worked and what's not worked? Well, you know, Aaron, I hate to tell you, my friend, game bowling's not going anywhere. I get it. But if you're not selling bowling by time right now, you're making your life a little more difficult than you have to, because if you're selling by time, you can more easily manage your business. You're not waiting for slow bowlers to finish. If the lane's on, you're getting paid for it. That's the bottom line, basically, right, Tasha?
Yes, it's a lot easier to manage your capacity with time bowling. Jay, you'll go through the resources and point out content that's relevant to this that Aaron maybe can take a look at as he is getting ready to reopen. But time bowling is going to be much easier for you, and it's going to be much better for the customer in the long run. And we have heard that's one thing that I think everybody agrees on today. Time bowling. Right now, it's the perfect time to introduce it if you haven't done so already. It's perfect time to pull the plug. The consumer has been very open to it. They understand why. They understand, you know, why it's needed and why it's better for them. And I haven't heard of anybody getting any pushback whatsoever. Have you, Jay?
Right. No, and it's the perfect opportunity, like you said. Now, let me put a big star next to my statement from before. If you are a very traditional center with a lot of lanes, maybe you got a 32 or 36 or 40 lane center, you know, Monday through Friday up until 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, you might not care about allowing people to bowl by the game because you're not in a waiting list situation. You don't care if that lane takes 2 hours to bowl or not. I mean, from a business perspective, you should care, but it's not the end of the world. But when you are at your max capacity, you really need to know when that next lane is available so you can properly sell. Like Tasha said, I can tell the next customer, you're up at 7:45 because that's when my next lane is available. And you can plan better. So it does make life a little easier for you when you're at your peaks, when you're on time. And does game bowling disappear? No. You have a large traditional audience. They're always going to want to play by the game because they're league bowlers or they're tournament players. So you can still allow that to happen. But are you marketing that as your driver? Probably not.
Sure, that makes sense. Hey, Brianna said, when we were only allowed to use half of our lanes with the time only. Once we got all lanes used, we went back to game bowling. We had reservations only for Friday and Saturday nights starting out till we figured out how busy we were going to be. Now that we aren't busy, we're only game bowling. We never did time bowling before the shutdown. Okay. Brianna,
See,
can you
that's
tell
a
us
perfect
real fast?
example.
Yeah, can you tell us real quick, where are you located? Wyoming. Okay, perfect.
Thank you,
Um,
Brianna. That's
yes,
awesome.
yes. And Christine said, we have a large parking lot and offered to put up a tent to accommodate large group parties. This is allowed in our county, but there are specific regulations about alcohol service and ID checks. That's a great idea. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. John, are you doing anything special? Are you able to do anything like that, or do you have a need to do anything like that in your market right now? Well, you have 50 lanes, so
Yeah,
you have a lot of lanes.
We're very big. We have 65,000 square feet. We have a lounge and an arcade that are also not being used very much, which has allowed the capacity to not be a big deal for us at the moment. We have switched over exclusively for online reservations to time bowling. That way, it was easy to keep track of who was there, for us to block off how many lanes I could sell, and make sure there was enough time for us to clean them and get them served back out. And on Friday and Saturday nights, we have gone exclusively to time bowling for our busier times. Now, during the week, we do still offer games, but that's the mix that we found. It also seems to work real well for us with the time bowling, for them to purchase their online reservation and pay in full up front. Because they know exactly what they're getting, as opposed to the discussion we've all had with bowlers at the desk over, do you bowl one game or two games or three games? And, an hour seems to be something they kind of feel pretty comfortable about.
Yep.
Or heaven forbid, they come through the door, an hour and 10 minutes before your league starts, and you're like, well, I need the lane back by 6:55, and they're like, okay, but they don't really mean that. And then they're just taking their sweet old time, and you go down there and they're like, we have 4 frames left, just let us finish. They don't understand the implications. So
now lanes are a very tight inventory because we have to go every other lane, so it's more difficult. And really, I'm a 50 lane bowling center, but really I'm a 25 lane bowling center.
Yes. John, did you require online reservations?
We have not required it, but it's,
Recommended.
it's worded on our website that, online reservations are available and are recommended. You may walk in for, open play. We have not had, only a couple instances where we pretty much have gotten pretty close to needing a wait list, but it is strongly suggested because it's a way to guarantee, and it's worded in how we've got things that we are at a limited capacity, so we can't promise that you don't walk in. And we've all been to Target and had to stand outside for 4 people to leave so that we could go in.
Right. And let me
true.
ask you this. Has that worked out well? Do most people make reservations or walk in still?
We had never done online reservations before this, and in our first month in June, we did over 100 reservations.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we averaged over 3 a day, and the average ticket for an online reservation was about $45 for their total purchase. So I feel sometimes like maybe they spend a little more because they can do add-ons and buy pizza and food as well.
Oh, heck yeah.
But
selfishly, I'm curious, what system do you use for your online reservations?
We are using PartyWorks, the BPA partner. I know that we had some discussions about we're currently operating on like 12.3, something like that for Concur.
Okay.
And so we had discussions, actually met with my sales rep about hyperbowling and Concur X and all the latest and greatest stuff last week. We went up to Newcastle and visited New Rose City Bowl.
Oh, nice. Good place to visit.
Yes, it's very nice. They have an excellent place there. But right now, that's what we're at with the program that we use. We have had discussions with the ownership group about, possibly using the Cubica system in the future, which would take a whole step out of my day of getting the information and then putting it in our reservation system.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, at this point in time, whatever you have and whatever you're able to take advantage of is still absolutely better than nothing. We did actually, we did make our web booking legacy system, Cubica MF web booking legacy system, available for sale again. we're working on a new solution that's going to be just out of this world. But to accommodate the current situation, we have made our legacy web booking available again. And it works for versions 11 plus or 11 or higher, if that makes sense. Just for those of you that may be interested, Jay's pulling it up on our website. It is available. The information that you need to know about that is available on cubicamf.com. Again, it's fully integrated with the rest of the system. So whether you take a reservation over the phone, on the web, everything is fully integrated in your system. You have a picture of everything that's going on. There's basically no way for you to overbook lanes unless you're physically doing it on purpose. And the web booking piece has some very neat features. In fact, I think, Jay, you guys talked about that in the webinar 2 weeks ago.
We did. And yeah, what I like about this is that, yeah, the legacy system is great. It's functional, it works fine. But more importantly, you're getting if you don't have anything, this is amazing. And then what's more amazing is the fact that you're gonna go to Conquer X, right? And that's even more amazing. But then when we release our new product soon, you're going to have the newest product. And like you said, John, seamless. I don't have to do double duty. I'm not going to PartyWorks or whatever other system you have, trying to get the information out and then having to re-input it into Conqueror so it flows for my customer. That will happen seamlessly for you down the road. The customer can put the names in, they can put, and then they just come in and you go, tick, tick, yep, you're on lane 12, thanks, bye. Simple,
Yeah.
the way it should be.
Yeah. But again, whatever you can get right now, we've heard a lot of feedback from our customers that pre-booked or making reservations ahead of time has worked very, very, very well for them. And they plan to continue to do that even when things go back to whatever normal is going to be. Because again, it's so much easier to manage your business. You can preset everything ahead of time. You can literally click on a couple of buttons and reservation is done, and you don't have to worry about it. And the customers, the consumer has reacted to it quite well. So I think it's going to be one of those things where, folks had to do it at this point in time, but actually learn that it works so well, they will want to continue to do it.
Right. That'll be the key.
Something positive.
And the other thing too, Tasha, is that from a marketing point of view, we find that the pre-book business, when you prepay and pre-book online, the average ticket price tends to be much higher. And here's the big and, once they come to the center, they're willing to spend even more money on food and beverage, even if they didn't buy it already, because they're not paying for the bowling technically out of their pocket that night. So, or then, so it just makes it easier for them to spend money. And I don't know of one owner operator that doesn't want it to be easy for their people to spend money in their facility. Also have a great experience too. Let's call that what it is. This gives a seamless transaction.
Also has allowed me to gather their information too in a nice, clean, easy way to read it, as opposed to where they write their name and you can't read it. They have to give me an email that works. That's how they get their confirmation.
Yep.
And I now have addresses, and I have an idea of who they are, where they live, and a really good idea of where this business is coming from, along with how much they spent.
And you know what? With CubicMF legacy web booking, that all is then stored in your frequent bowler tracker. So you can, at some point in time, you can pull up that member and see what reservations they booked, what they purchased, what they spent. You can see all of their history.
And you say you want to market to the people who are good to you with revenue and frequency. That's the perfect way to go after it. Just set a couple of filters, run a query, and you know who your top spenders are in your building, just like that. So you can create these levels and these packages that really attract your core group that support you. You can support them back. I think you just create a better engagement.
And Jay, Bill just sent us a message and said Georgia Centers, which opened early, use the online reservations exclusively customers sitting in the parking lot until their reservation.
That sounds like what I would do, Bill.
Yeah, but
I'd
you
still
know,
get to there.
you kind of avoid, having too many people in the building. And you remember at the beginning, the restrictions were quite strict, right? So having somebody on the lanes enjoying their time, and then when they leave, somebody else comes in and they're not all congregating in the building. That was one of the ways to handle some of that and, work through a lot of those restrictions that were put in place. So I'm glad, thank you for sharing this, Bill, with us. I'm glad that folks are now starting to utilize systems that they have in technology to manage a lot of these components that now we have to navigate around.
Tasha, we're getting to the top of the hour, so I would love to show people the support page real quick.
Okay.
So here's the resource center. If you go to cubicaamf.com, which is this main page here, you'll see we have a scrolling bar. You can get to many places from this bar. And this is what we talked about early on, John, like you said, is your COVID information on your website. If you have this type of a feature on your website, you can make COVID #1 and maybe reservations #2, so that you really put that message out there. But when you come to our resource center, you actually come to a full page of other options here. One of the ones I want to point out is the free reopening tech support. This is so important. If you have not yet opened your building or you're about to open your building, don't wait to call tech support when the day you're going to do it. Schedule a call with them. It's free. You can walk through your system, avoid any hiccups or weirdness that's happened because maybe your stuff hasn't been turned on or didn't get shut down properly. It might need to be rebooted. I don't know. We've heard all sorts of weird things happen, but this helps to solve that so that when you are ready to have customers, it's seamless. It's the best experience for them and for you and your staff. You're not running around chasing things at the last minute, hopefully.
Jay, one more thing on that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. More importantly,
no, don't.
If you schedule a call with them, you get uninterrupted time. There's just a tech technician and you. Otherwise,
it's
if you
beautiful.
call throughout the day, we don't know how many people are calling in. You don't know if there's going to be a wait. So this way you can assure that you have undivided attention. You have somebody answering your questions, helping you with whatever you need. And that way you get your, questions answered and things taken care of instead of, maybe the alternative. What's the alternative? Sitting on, waiting for somebody
sitting on hold.
We don't know. You know what I mean? One day they're not.
I know
busy.
exactly what you mean.
Today, all of Midwest.
Well, you're doing it on your time frame too. You're doing it on. I'm not waiting for someone else to do it. I know at Tuesday at 3 o'clock they're going to call me and we're going to work through that time. You can set the time aside so you're more engaged than they are, and it just is a better experience. Our Beyond the Frame group. This is our Facebook Live group that we do usually Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday and/or Thursday. We'll have a guest on, and they're short 10, 15, 20-minute shows that we talk about. Tim Voss was my guest yesterday, and we're going to have 2 good guests next week when Dottie San Martin will probably be your host. I might be a host. We never know. Tasha might be a host. She doesn't know that yet, but don't tell her. And then the reopening marketing kit. This is a beautifully done piece. If you need social distancing stickers or signage, or even if you're just coming in here to take the images and use them on your overhead, take it, use it as you see fit. Tweak anything you want on there. Don't reinvent the wheel when you don't have to. It's not necessary. We've created this stuff for you. And then the other thing I want to tell you about is our upcoming webinars. So how do you get to the webinars? Well, when you're back at the homepage, pardon?
I said, go back to Beyond the Frame.
Oh, go back to Beyond the Frame? Okay. Oh, the webinars are there also. You're right. I forgot. We can do it 2 ways. So underneath here, you'll have the webinar login here, or join the Beyond the Frame Facebook group. Now, our next webinar, which is shown here, will be 2 weeks from today. That'll be the June 22nd, and it's called Not Falling Behind, Prepping for Your Fall Calendar. We talked about some of these things today. How are you going to fill your business? What should you be doing? We're going to have some other operators on with us on that day. and we'll go over and get some ideas in your head. Maybe it'll just be like a big brainstorm like we talked about today, right?
You never know.
You never know. Well, I would like to say thank you to our guests for coming. John, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you to all of our attendees who've been listening and participating. I especially love the participation. This is the kind of interaction we love to see. You asking us questions, spurring us to think differently, and moving forward together. On behalf of Cubica AMF, myself and Tasha and John, we thank you for your time. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to having you again on a future show. Is there anything, parting words, John, that you would like to say to our audience? Give them a positive spin.
Thank you all for having me. I know right now it is unprecedented times, but that means there's opportunity for us all to grow in some way and grow our businesses. We will get through this. We've survived things like this before. We're a resilient industry, and it's all going to be okay. We just got to keep marching forward and being willing to be very flexible in many things we hold sacred.
Beautiful. Tasha, final words.
Oh yeah, that's very fair. Have me go after that. Like, how do you count that up? What? Thanks,
All right,
Jay.
you bring us home, Tasha. You close us out.
No, John said it very well. I'm very excited to see, folks still participating in these webinars. We know you're all busy with so many things to do now that, most of the country is getting close to opening. I just want to remind everybody, we're here, whatever you need. Oh, Jay, thank you for pulling that up. maxtrainingadmin@cubicamf.com. If you have any questions, even if they're not particularly training related, let us know. If you want to, run ideas, brainstorm, whatever you need, hear, what other folks are experiencing, we're here for you. Don't hesitate to let us know. We're hoping to see everybody back on either Beyond the Frame Facebook Live or, next webinar on the 22nd. And especially in North Carolina, good luck. I know you guys are opening up here in the upcoming days. Very exciting. Looking forward to hearing some great success stories from the rest of the country in the upcoming weeks. I hope we continue to go in the right direction.
That was beautifully said, Tasha. Thank you. North Carolina, I'm telling you now, I want you all back here in 2 weeks to report to us how everything went. I thank you. You have a wonderful week. Stay safe, everyone, and keep making bowling amazing with us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.